Hey guys, and welcome back to episode 3 of this Beginner's Guide series. In the first episode, we learned the essentials of how to make a line and how to understand the supply and demand from various industries around the map. In episode 2, we graduated onto trains and understanding just the basics of how to make a very simple, just train route, again for cargo. And then in this episode, we are going to get to passenger services. And passenger services, I'd argue, are actually a little bit simpler to understand than all the industries, and that's because they're simply just same city services with like buses and or trams, and then there's intercity services with probably trains, but you could also use ships and or planes as well. However, with that being said, passenger services are a little bit more finicky, and I kind of alluded to this in the very first episode, but they'll take the fastest mode of transport, whatever it is, and this just applies mainly to intercity routes. So if you have a train and you have a ship going to two different cities, for instance, the customers will just take the fastest route, and then later on in the game, when personal vehicles like cars become a thing too, if cars are faster than your trains, they will just flock to the cars as well. So you want to make sure that you build your passenger routes efficiently. So let me just show you what a passenger route looks like and kind of understanding it conceptually, and then we can go on which one to build first, whether it's a train route connecting the cities or whether we should build a bus route connecting just a single city to itself first. But if I just come into the menu down here and I go over here and I just grab this bus/tram stop, you'll see that when I put it on the streets, a bunch of the buildings around it light up, and this is really a lot more obvious if I kind of drag it across the city. You'll see that just buildings here and there light up, de-highlight the closer I get to them, and if I put it over here, obviously the top part of the city is all lit up, and then if I move it down here, the bottom part of the city is all lit up. And then if you remember from the very first episode is when we have a truck station close to an industry, we know that this truck station is servicing that industry. So the exact same principle is going to apply. Whatever buildings light up here by this bus or tram stop are going to be serviced by it. The same thing goes to if I get a passenger station and I try to put it just here or something, maybe if I grab a terminus station, you can see that there are a couple buildings that light up, and then the farther this goes away from the city, the less of the buildings light up. And then obviously if I put it closer here in the middle of the city, a bunch of things light up, but then I'd have to pay to remove some of these yellow buildings. So with that in mind, we have to think about which one of these we want to build first, whether we want to start with a train station that connects the cities together, or whether we want to start with a bus route that just connects the city together. And I'll give you a second to think about it, because there is a right answer to this, at least in my opinion. And we're actually going to want to start with a bus line that connects a whole city. And the reason for this is because if I grab a train station here and I put it down like right here, for instance, that's only going to light up a certain part of the city, so only these buildings in white will actually be able to access this train station. If we start with a bus route, then basically how a bus route works is we place a bunch of them across the city so that the whole city lights up when we click on the various bus stops everywhere in the city is serviced, and we put one right outside the train station as well. If you can picture a train station going roughly about here, that way everyone in the city that wants to ride a train will be able to hop on a bus and go be dropped off directly in front of the train station. I definitely recommend starting with a bus stop this way because one, it gets a lot more people actually on the bus lines. By the time you have the train stations built, the bus lines will already be populated, and it'll just greatly increase the amount of potential customers that will be taking the trains because the whole city will have access to it. With that being said, it generally is a good idea to zoom out and just get a general idea of how the train routes are going to look, and that's because of how we're going to start our bus route, which I will cover in just a second. But for now, let's zoom out, and you could theoretically there's a bunch of things you could do, right? You could do anything you want, but one potential route is to have a terminus station kind of like this. So there's a station on one side, and then this will be the end of the line. And then you could probably do something like having one line come up and go over here to that city and just having this be kind of just its own route. And then you could have a second track that goes over here like that. But I'm actually thinking it would be really cool on this map I have here to have a kind of circular route where we set up a passenger station, something like this, and then leaving both sides of the track open-ended, and then there's not like a definitive start and end point. It just kind of goes in a circle, so it'll come around here, it'll loop around, it'll come around this city, and then just kind of go on the outskirts of the map on the outsides of all the cities. I think that would be really satisfying for this map and just kind of pretty. But again, you could do it however you want, but just have a general idea of where the train station is going to go before you start work on the bus route. For this beginner's guide video, I'm actually going to do something that I wouldn't normally do, and I'm actually going to place this station down first, just so you guys can see and have a better idea of kind of what I'm talking about. I think it would be helpful to actually have the station here, but if you're playing in your own game, I'd probably just wait until you have all the bus routes going between the cities you want, and then place the train stations, because they have upkeep costs, and honestly, the money could be better spent elsewhere. But again, it probably doesn't matter too much for this beginner's guide, so I'm going to zoom out here. And then another thing I want to mention, some people really like to put the train stations in the heart of the city just so they can like service as much stuff as possible. But honestly guys, it doesn't matter too much. If you have a bus route that connects it to the rest of the city, all of the city is going to be able to access it anyway, so it doesn't really matter if you have to build it in the heart of the city. And then if I were to do something like this, I'd have to pay like $1 million or a couple $100,000 you see here to actually remove some buildings. And I don't know, I kind of just like letting the towns grow naturally and not really removing buildings in general. It just feels a little bit more real to me. And so I'm going to place it somewhere out here. Again, just look for a cheap spot in general. Something like that is probably going to be fine. And let's go ahead and build a road that connects to this train station. And it's not too hard. Let's just look. It looks like we have an end of a road here and an end of a road here. And then if you want to design the station and add some more buildings and stuff, now might be a good time to do that. So maybe if we want to throw on like a large building here, maybe like a medium building over here, a couple small buildings, I don't know, however you want to make it look, something like that's probably fine. And now let's go ahead and build a little road that connects it in. So again, I just look for the ends of the roads that are already existing, and then maybe it'll come down something like this, or actually maybe we just start with a road that has tendrils like this. So now we know that it's going to be pretty hard to break the connections here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 connections like that, and then maybe we come up a little bit, and then maybe we go, oh, maybe that was a little bit too much. Something like that. Can we refund that little bit and then build like something like this? Like connect the dots, that should work. And then maybe now this just connects in over there. Something like this. That's not the most pretty layout I've ever done, but again, the really important thing here is that you have a bunch of connections. I stress that all the time, just in case you ever want to upgrade a road, or maybe you want to break this part of the road, you know that it's not going to sever the connection to the city as a whole, because there's plenty of connections all across this street. So now let's go ahead and just connect it over on this side, just something like that. Again, doesn't have to be super complicated. And cool, now we have the train station connected to the city. So with this placed down, again, mostly for visuals to kind of help visualize what we're going to do a little bit down the road, let us go ahead and actually start placing down some bus stops. So again, it's going to be pretty similar concept to the industries and cargo routes. You just want to place these generally around the city so that everything lights up. I usually lean on the end of placing more than I need, and that's just because it doesn't really hurt to have more bus stops. They'll stop for like a half a second or two to pick up people and drop off. But if you have too little, it might not be enough service for the size of the city, especially if the city grows. I just tend to lean towards more the merrier. They're really cheap. They're like a couple $1,000 to place down and not too hard to add into the line. So I have one here. Let's place another one here. Let's just visualize again. So it's going to come down on this side of the road, and it's going to come over here. It's going to hit that bus stop. Maybe it's going to come down this road right there, stop right there. And then maybe let's have it turn left over here, something like this. And then maybe it's going to come down this road, stop over here. It's going to turn right here, stop somewhere around there, and then it is going to come back to the station over this way. But instead of placing just this regular bus and tram stop right outside the main connection, whether it's a train station or a port, I really like to use the actual full-size station right here. So again, instead of this tiny little thing, I use this big one, and the advantage of this will come into play in just a second, but let me go ahead and place this down somewhere just kind of like that. Looks pretty nice. And then I think it defaulted to 20-meter platforms, which again should be fine if you have the money for it. And I will go over why I'm using this in a second, but for now, let us connect this bus line. So it's not going to be too different from just the cargo routes we set up in the last episode. You're just going to come into the line manager down here, grab a new line, and then I really like to start with the big truck station that's right outside the intercity connection. So we'll start here, and then as I go through this, you'll see the line pop up, and it should match what you're seeing in your head. So the truck is going to come over here, hit this bus stop, it's going to come around this corner, hit this one. Next bus stop we wanted to do is this right here. Next, instead of going back to the station, we're going to want it to take a left over here. So when I add this in, the route again should adapt to exactly what you have in your head. It is very helpful to visualize just exactly what you're seeing. And then let's finish off here, and again just zoom out and make sure the whole route is actually doing what you see in your head. It helps to have the numbers right here. You can see that's the first stop, second stop, third stop, fourth stop, etc. So if this is doing anything weird, just come here and look, but it looks like our route is pretty good. But actually, let's think about things conceptually for just a second. If there's someone that arrives at the train station and wants to go to St. John's Road, say it's like 20 people, they're going to have to wait the entire bus route to actually get there. And if a bus only holds 20 people, then that's going to mean that no one at any of these stops will be able to get on the bus because it's just ferrying all 20 people over to St. John's Road. Obviously, that is not efficient, and there is an easy way around it. All we have to do is just make a route that goes in the other direction so that St. John's Road is serviced first. And that's really easy to do, but we have to make sure that we have bus stops on both sides of the road. So I'm going to come in here and just do the exact same thing. I'm just going to put bus stops on the other side of the road, and you don't have to visualize it quite as much because we already did all that hard work at the beginning. But I'm just going to come in here, put them on the other side just like that. They don't have to be exact, just roughly something like this. Something like that, and then I believe that should be the last one. Typically, when I'm making a new bus route, I'll just do it at the same time. So instead of just doing one side of the road, I'll just quick do a 1-2 like this, and then I'll just do a 1-2 like that. So that way I don't have to go back later and add them. But I think it was important just to visualize just one route first and then come back to add them now. But if you're doing this from scratch, I would highly recommend just placing 2 while you're going to make the route at the start. So now we just need to make a line that goes in reverse, and it's really easy to do. I will show you how most people do it, and then I'll show you how I do it that is a little bit easier. But it's really easy. Again, we're just going to go to the new line, and then starting at the big bus stop here, we're just going to do the exact same thing but in reverse. I'll go a little bit quicker here, and if you zoom out, the lines should perfectly parallel each other because again it's the identical route just in the other direction. So if you have one line coming on this road and then another line going on this road, there's probably something a little funky, but it looks like our lines are paralleling each other nicely. And then another tip too to make sure this is working, if you zoom in and look at the direction of the arrows on the lines here, you can see that the buses are going to come over here going this way, and then on the other side of the road they're going the other way. So everything is checking out nicely. So this will work. Again, this is what most people do. But the main drawback of this is that they're 2 separate lines. So you're going to have to manage putting vehicles on 2 separate lines. If you ever want to expand the route, if your city grows, it's going to be twice as much work. And overall, it just clutters the line manager down here. Say you have like 20 cities, that means you're not going to have 20 routes, you're going to have 40 routes. So I personally like to do this. I'm going to delete this line down here, and I'm actually going to basically make that same route, but just on the end, the second half of this first route here. So we have the whole route coming over here to St. John Road. That is the last stop, and so I'm going to click add station right here, and then I am going to come back to 1, right? And then this is the start of the route we just made in reverse. It's going to start at the main station here, and again, it's just going to go in reverse. You can just count the numbers that are below the bus stops. So 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and then we don't need to make another one here because once it gets to the last stop, the route will just start over. So it'll start over back at 1 like that. And that's the reason that I use this big bus station down here, is because you can see the lines coming around here. I'm actually going to switch this to a blue. I usually like to use this kind of blue color for bus lines. You can see that they come in here and they're able to turn around within the bus station itself. If we just use the tram stops or the bus stops like this, then there's no easy place for the bus to turn around, so they'd have to go to find some like random alley or something, and it's just not ideal. It's really convenient to have them spin around in here, and this station is probably going to have the most people waiting anyway because it's right next to this main connection, so you can easily add more cargo, or in this case passenger buildings. You can just add them onto the end like this, or if you need to increase capacity, you can add routes like that, and it's just all nice and very convenient. Now with everything created, we have all the bus stops and we have the routes set up in one direction and the reverse direction. We are finally ready to put some vehicles on this line, and for bus routes it really doesn't matter too much where the road depot goes. For tram routes it will matter, and I'll cover that a little bit later, but I usually like to keep it somewhere close to the main station but not in the way of the train. And if we ever want to expand, it might be nice just to have some room right next door, so something like this should be fine. So buses are just going to be bought from the same just road depot that cargo trucks are bought from as well, and it's really easy to filter. All we have to do is click this passenger up here, and then it really doesn't matter too much which one you get. Just look at the capacity and the price. I really like the looks of this one, so I'm going to get 2 of this one for one side of the road and the other for the reverse side. And then when I set these to the line, they should automatically go in the most efficient direction possible. So I think if I speed this up a little bit, I believe one will go on one side of the road and the other one will automatically go on the reverse route, but let's just double check that's true really quick. This guy is going to North Street, and then this guy should be going to St. John's Road, so he should be taken off the other way, which I believe, yep, he's doing that. But if it ever is not the case, you can always click on the vehicle and then you can click this icon up here, the reverse button, and then you can see he's going to St. John's Road. If I reverse him, he'll start going the other way, and then now he'll start through the line going the other direction. But I did like the way he was going, so I'll send him back to St. John's Road. And now if I scroll out, we should start to see demand at these bus stops with the little passenger icons above them, which we do, which is awesome. And another little tip here, you can see where they want to go or which side of the bus stop they're on by these little via Abingdon Annex and via Queen Street. If I click on the line itself right here, it'll put the name of all the bus stops, very easy to see. So that means this customer going to Queen Street is going to be going on this side of the road, just going one stop down here, and should get picked up by this bus down here, which if we zoom out, we should see the passenger icon, should go away, should be on this bus right now, and now there's 1 out of 38. Cool, and that's how to read the via St. John's Road, via, all that kind of thing. So this is great. Now the whole city has a working bus route. I would recommend starting with just 2 buses, one going each way until demand kind of increases, but I also want to cover trams really quick. So trams function basically the same as buses, but they generally have higher carry capacity, and you need to upgrade the roads to be tram capable is really the main difference. And it's really easy to do that. You just have to come into the road menu down here and then go to the tools tab on the far right and then find the tram track tool. And typically when I'm upgrading my roads, I could just try to mentally visualize the route of it and then come in here. So I'd upgrade this, I'd upgrade that, and now those are showing blue, so I know the trams can run on them. But it's kind of hard to visualize, and I find it really easy if you just grab any bus station and then you click on the line itself, it'll paint the line for you. And this makes it so much easier to upgrade the line. And it might be a little bit confusing with the blue being tram capable as well as the line color. So let me actually just change the line color to like something really easy to see like this green. And now with that done, if I close out of the line manager, again, if that's not painted for you, just click on a bus stop and then click on the line. And now I can just come into the tram upgrade tool and it should be really easy to just follow this. And then again, wherever you see the lines going, just come in here and upgrade everything. I'll go a little bit quickly here, but you kind of get the idea. Shouldn't be too difficult, something like that. There are actually a couple problem points I have here, which you might not have noticed, but let me just go ahead and try to buy a tram to show you what I did wrong. And the tram is going to be in a whole separate depot, and I'm going to put it over here just to make a point. And again, the tram doesn't really matter too much which one you get. Just look at the cost, look at the capacity. They're generally more expensive, but they carry a lot more people. I kind of like the look of this one, so let's buy 2 of it, again, 1 for each side. And then if we try to assign these to a line, there's actually no line that even pops up here. And that's because, similar to electrifying train routes, if the tram cannot actually access the route from where it spawns in, then you're going to get an error. So all we need to do here is just make sure that this road is also tram capable. And when I bring this out, you'll see that the depot is, but we just need to make this blue. And then I know as well that this bus stop I did not make tram capable either, so we're going to get an error still because the tram has to come in here. But again, really easy to fix. We just upgrade the connection and then it should upgrade the rest of the station as well. If you are getting an error, there's really not a super easy way to check why, but I'd recommend just, again, grabbing the line and having it painted, and then just following the entire line with the tram tool to make sure literally everywhere the tram could go is blue, and then you shouldn't have any problems. Again, the 2 main problem points are probably going to be the tram into the line itself and then the bigger bus station, but you'll probably just have to look everywhere. So let's go ahead and actually assign the trams now, and incidentally, if you notice, the icons have changed from just a bus to a bus and a tram, just more confirmation that our trams should be able to use this. So let's go ahead and actually assign these to the line. We'll know we did it right if the line is there, and it looks like it is. So let me go ahead and speed this up a little bit. My favorite part of anything is watching all these trains come out of the depot, but let's make sure these go to the proper directions. This one should be going to Abingdon Annex, the main bus station, and then this one should be going to St. John's Road, which actually, these 2 look like they're going to the same place. So again, super easy to fix. Just click one and then come up here to this reverse button. And then now he should be heading to St. John's Road, just like we see there. And if we click on the line again, which I'm actually going to go ahead and put back to our blue, we should see that we have 2 buses and 2 trams on the same line, which is perfectly fine, not going to hurt anything, but you can play around with this as you want. But hopefully this gives you a pretty thorough understanding of how to start with passenger services. Join me in the next episode where we will connect these cities by train. Hope to see you there.